Welcome to Miami Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today for this play-in preview, Battle of Mid, the sequel, I got Coach Lou.
Yo, let the mid-off continue, baby.
Let
Part
the
two.
mid-off continue. This is what Adam Silver wanted, just bunch of average teams fighting for the right to lose in 4 or 5 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Also joining me today, maiden voyage on the show, our first ever Atlanta Hawks guest, David Lee of Afro News joins us. David, thank you for making the time for us today on what is going to be a monster matchup for Adam Silver's NBA.
Hey man, look, I'm looking forward to hopefully not a terrible game to watch, but you know, with the way these two teams are playing, it could be awful. So
it could go either way. We could get an offensive slobber knocker, or we could get the Miami Heat not being able to score and the Atlanta Hawks turning the ball over every other possession. Who knows? We are in for quite the surprise. David, I off the rip, I got to ask you, Atlanta's injury report this morning looked pretty long. And on there was Trae Young with an Achilles. You are with the team in and out. You're watching, you're following them really closely. What does that mean? Are these guys, do you think they're likely to play? Are these guys that are listed on injury reports, but kind of work through it? What's your reaction was what when you saw that?
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of Heat fans who maybe haven't seen any of our injury reports, you may have seen that Trae was questionable, and it might have been like a little fist bump. He's been questionable all season, so they actually got fined early in the season for having him listed with an injury and not putting him on the injury report. So kind of like in a cheeky way, they've been listing him questionable every single game. He has been dealing with some Achilles stuff all season, but he'll definitely play. All the other guys are out, so okay. You won't see Kobe Buffkin, Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, or Larry Nance.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I was about to thank you for did you do that off the rip?
Well, I got to be informed, man.
Oh, let me tell you, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. That was amazing. I'm absolutely.
I don't
impressed.
even know who's not playing for us tomorrow.
I do not. Is Jovic
Nico
playing?
out there? Shit.
I just know Terry Rozier's not playing. That's all I know.
That's all that matters.
I know Terry Rozier and Jaime Hawkins Jr. are not touching that court unless something bad happens. So
or good.
Or who knows?
Depending on who you ask too.
They didn't even play in a blowout. David. So obviously, I think everything in this matchup is going to orbit Trae Young.
Right.
I think he is the most. I think really the fate of this game really falls on him. Atlanta's offense, I think, to the audience's surprise, has not been very good this year. They've been pretty middle of the pack in a lot of categories. The one thing they're really good at, they get to the rim a lot. They're 6 in attempts. Their roll men are great. They score 1.11 on roll men. That's 12th in the league, points per possession. They're pretty decent as a ball handler, a shade under a point per possession. That ranks for 11th in the league. Post All-Star break, their offense is really good. It's about a 119 offensive rating, which is pretty impressive. Before that, I believe it's around 116, which is pretty, it's whatever. It's kind of, average middle of the pack. When Trae Young's on the floor, their offense is really, really good. When Trae Young's off the floor, their offense is really, really bad. I don't really know what to make of this team. What's changed post All-Star break that their team has really taken off?
Yeah, the offensive stuff is all about the guys who they brought in. So prior to the trade deadline, they were 20th in half-court offensive efficiency. After they're 8th, and they're now 4 points better than league average. And so that's really important because, especially going into a matchup against Spoelstra and Davion Mitchell and Andrew Wiggins, all these guys they can throw length, size, quickness, versatility on Trae. Having guys who can at least manufacture their own shot in a Caris LeVert or even sometimes a Georges Niang or a Terrence Mann, whatever it may be. Now, there's varying degrees of effectiveness, but all of those guys are a little bit better at dribble, pass, shoot than DeAndre Hunter and the current version of Bogdan Bogdanovic. So as great as DeAndre Hunter was playing offensively for himself, he wasn't necessarily keeping the ball popping in the half court, especially when Trae was off the floor. So a lot of what DeAndre was doing was, okay, I'm going to shoot the ball, not I'm going to play within the floor. He will still play within the floor of the offense, but he wasn't able to continue the flow in terms of okay, we're gonna keep this ball popping. He wasn't making hockey assists. He wasn't driving closeouts. It was he had a really great shooting season. So that's the biggest thing is they've got guys who feed more into that ball movement heavy, especially when Trae's off the floor. Not to say he doesn't move the ball, but they have to play a more structured way in terms of how they drive and finish. So that's the biggest thing is more so. And they also brought in guys who can finish plays. So Niang finished the regular season as a top 5 catch and shoot player with the Hawks. Caris LeVert has been decent at this on those same types of looks. He's really good at creating his own shot. he can at least create space. He didn't play as well against Orlando, but like that's been a big change for this Hawks team for sure, especially with Jalen Johnson now.
Yeah, no, and Levert gives you a little bit of size kind of in that front court. I know they're not, a Capella doesn't really play for Atlanta much anymore, and he's out anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of to your point, I saw that Atlanta, they're third in assists, right, or assist percentage. So I mean, a Trae Young team is going to move the ball, right? He beats his man off the pick and roll. And Lou, I guess that kind of brings us to, I think, the most important matchup of this game. Who's going to guard Trae Young if you're Miami? Now, Alec Burke has started a lot of games to close out this season. Alec Burke started against the Chicago Bulls, which we all wondered. Davion made a lot of sense. Kobe White had been playing really well. Josh Giddey had been playing really well. We kind of were figuring, okay, if they're going to configure the matchups, where is Davion Mitchell going to play? Is he going to play? Is he going to start it? Is he not? I think ultimately we saw that he did not start, and probably it's because Eric Spoelstra wants a ball handling on the back end. With Tyler Herro and Bam on the floor, they don't really need the other ball handler. And when those guys are off the floor, it gets pretty dicey. Terry Rozier's not playing for this anymore. Hawkins is not playing anymore, which kind of takes away two huge ball handlers. Jovic, obviously, Lou, you're a big fan of his. He's not there to offload some of that ball handling. I don't know if Davion starts, but if there's a place for him to start, it's now. I mean, that's the guy. That's the one guy that you gotta man up. You gotta contain. Do you think Spo does it?
No, I don't think he starts it. It's so unlike Spoelstra to like completely change a lineup from one game to the next without it being
one
injury.
Player.
Yeah, without it being injury related. I 100% think they're going to roll out the same lineup, and they're probably going to throw Wiggins at Trae to start.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start with something crazy like Wiggins or even Bam. I mean, you saw against the Bulls first possession, Bam on Giddey, and I forgot who was it that said it. That was a statement from Eric Spoelstra. I mean, it might have been Udonis. That's a statement like, we're not fucking around. We're
going to cut the water off
the wrath.
And I don't think it'll be Bam just because
I don't think so either, but
like the Hawks do run Gay's still a starter for them, isn't he?
Yep, he's still starting.
Yeah, so it's going to be Gay and Okongwu in the front court. So I think the two bigs are going to handle those two bigs. I more so think it's just going to be Wiggins, and then you're gonna the wings, whatever it may be, Tyler on Dyson, and then Burks on Risache, or whoever decide. I'm pretty sure Risache is going to start. So it won't be Krejci. So something like that. Like I don't think it's going to be, but still, as we saw last game, Davion was like third in the team in minutes. So he's going to play. He's going to play. He's going to get majority of the minutes on him, but they're going to throw combinations. Highsmith is going to get some run at him because that's been kind of their answer, or like one of their chess matches that they throw at Trae. Like they're going to run zone. Like they're going to try everything to stop this man, and rightfully so. But I don't think that it's going to come with a tweak to the starting lineup. I'd be shocked at least.
I think I totally agree, and as much as I would like it, I understand, and I think that I do think that they really worry about that ball handling with that second unit, and really just anytime Tyler's off the floor, I think that's the thing. I mean, I've said this before, like Jimmy leaving, one of the most untalked about things is the fact that they lost really their most reliable ball handler, and Duncan can do some, and they have a bunch of guys that can do it by committee, but they don't have a guy that they trust as much as Davion to do it, but he can absolutely get up there in the minutes. David, so talking about how Miami's going to defend Trae, we just talked about all the guys that he's going to see. I think he's going to see a lot of drop. He's going to see a lot of switching. He's going to see a lot of zone. I think they're gonna send blitzes every once in a while. I think we've seen. I think that playoff series, and again, they don't have that same personnel that they had that playoff series in 22, where they put him through the ringer, and they don't have the size of Tucker, of Jimmy, even a guy like Lowry who is big for his position. I don't think they're going to have that, but Trae has kind of carved them up. Really, Davion couldn't contain him in the regular season. How do you see him kind of responding to these different defenses that Miami's going to throw on, particularly the stuff with Bam, right? When Bam gets a switch or when he's playing in drop.
Yeah, I think I'm scared of Bam, honestly, defensively. He is the best ISO defender in the NBA, right? Like by the numbers, I can't remember if it was you, Lou, or John who had retweeted it. But yeah, I saw it. It's like it's him, then it's Dyson or Men. One of those three is something in that order, right? In terms of guys who had actually seen enough possessions to qualify. This season, Trae's averaging 17, 12 assists. He's shooting 35% from the floor against y'all. and a 50 true shooting percentage. So he hasn't, like, I mean, if you look at the matchup data, right? So against Wiggins, he's all per 75 numbers, right? He's at a 41 true shooting percentage, 13 points per game, 13 points per 75, and he's averaging 8 assists per 75. He's also averaging 8 turnovers. So if you look through any of these matchups, whether it's Wiggins, if it's Davion is the guy he actually had more success against this season, at least, was Haywood. But he also saw the least amount of possessions between him and Wiggins. I think the biggest thing is, like, those 3 guys are all lengthy, strong, and quick. So the biggest concern for the Hawks, both long-term and in this game, is like who's going to demand more offensive attention, because when teams can put their best defender on Trae Young, that's a big concern for us, because we have, like, when you look at all the self-creation numbers, where it's isolation, post up, put it all together, roll it all in one, the Hawks are the worst self-creation team in the NBA. And that's because of Trae's limitations as his size, but also because he literally has the hardest matchup difficulty of anyone among his size, like, this season, right? Among guards, I think only Curry, I have to look at it again, I think Curry and Brunson are the only ones who see tougher defenders, right?
When the conversation is only Curry, that's how you know.
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't have the he doesn't have the offensive infrastructure of Golden State. He doesn't have the tough shot making in the frame of Jalen Brunson. So he's going to struggle against guys like that. So it's going to come down to, okay, can Dyson be respectable from 3? Can he be more aggressive and more confident than he was against Orlando? Can Zach Ariza hit some trailing threes? Like, how can they stress the defense outside of just having Trae Young manipulate? They've done a much better job doing it this season. But what really killed us in a couple of matchups against y'all was playing garbage front court pairings. Okay. And that's because Clint Capella has fallen off. He's fallen off the cliff. Like you mentioned, that he hasn't played since February, and that's intentional because he was a detriment on the court, and also because they're trying to at least make sure he doesn't get hurt before the end of the season. They played him and Niang against y'all. This is a game where y'all destroyed us in the third quarter. We ended up losing by like 20 plus. They can't move. Like when you put Niang on the floor with Clint Capella, they can't do it. They can't move. And then I remember the first game we played y'all, it was 98-86. It was the Hawks' second or third best defensive performance of the season. And a lot of that was because y'all were missing shots, but they were good at like figuring out who was going to take them. Like they were sagging off the right guys, right? Next game, Spo comes out with Haywood in Miami. And why I remember that Lou said, I don't know why Haywood didn't play that first game, because he's the type of player that makes it really tough for Atlanta because he has size and he can space the floor, right? Yep. So you see that difference. Like, of course, some of it was unsustainable shooting. Herro went nuclear, whatever it may be. But it's because they put size on the floor that complicates and athleticism that the Hawks just don't have in their front court right now. Like our big rotation is Onyeka Okongwu, who is Bam size, but not as strong. I don't think he's nearly as physical or strong as Bam. Y'all have Khalil Ware. Like it's the same thing as Orlando. Like it's a huge size discrepancy in the front court. And then when you put Niang on the floor with Don Barlow or Niang on the floor, like in general, it's going to be tough for them to overcome that. So they have to buy their time in those minutes. They have to produce offensively, and they have to give Trae at least a little bit of breathing room by like spreading the floor out, man. But like, yeah, like just like I see in the comments, Big AC say Miami's finally the bigger team.
You don't understand.
You're going to be the bigger team, man.
We made it.
I can't remember the last time I seen the comment.
It's so funny, David, because I forgot somebody tweeted, "Man, Miami's so athletic." And I go, where? Oh, it was Warriors Twitter. And I go, where? What? And someone's like, yeah, dude, we're kind of like athletic now. I go, damn, you're right. We are. When did this happen?
Yeah, it's so weird, man. Because like I remember I tweeted too. It's like when you're undersized, you have a very thin margin of error, right? Like if you don't have God-given abilities, right, to recover, like whatever it may be. If you have that Miami Heat grit, then that's what they kind of lean on, right? Like they have guys like in the past, Lowry, Davion, they don't have insane athletic gifts, but they're going to work extremely hard. They're going to do their work early. Tucker, yeah, Tucker as well. Like those are guys who aren't insane athletes, but they're really good positionally and they know how to be smart with their, whatever it may be. The Hawks don't have that athleticism, and then they don't have a plethora of guys who are like really smart positionally defensively. Like Niang is constantly out of position. Karis LeVert can be out of position. Terrence Mann can be out of position. Trae Young has a lot of stuff he has to try to overcome. So it's like, and in a matchup like this, they have a very thin margin of error, just like they did against Orlando. In Orlando, they made the lowest threes they have all season. You're not going to beat that team. You're just not, especially when you're bleeding second chance opportunities. So, yeah, they're gonna have to play bigger than they have against y'all this season. I want to say like I don't remember if it was that particular game, but like the offensive rebounding hasn't been terrible for us against y'all, which is encouraging because that's even if you all bigger. Oh, it's outside of that game on the 26th, like y'all destroyed us on the offensive.
Well, I think that's a function of like they will switch against Trae more, and you will just have Bam out of position. And I would bet a lot of those minutes, a lot of that offensive rebounding came in minutes where was off the floor and Bam was on, or vice versa.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I'd bet that, because that was kind of like their Achilles heel, and that's one of the reasons why they switched to drop. It was a lot of reasons. Part of it was their guards. I mean, they were starting Terry Rozier and Tyler freaking Herro. So they really needed to just do something to at least attempt to contain. And the rebounding was just like, it was pretty abysmal. Like, I think playoff, I think like functionally their defensive rebounding was fine. But I mean, they just have nights against like more athletic teams, like Minnesota would come in and like, they just
statistically, they're always a decent rebounding team. Like they're never too bad.
Always defensive rebounding. They don't offensive rebound.
We never. Spo doesn't believe in offensive rebounding, but defensive rebounding. As soon as we would play a bigger, more athletic team, it would be Raps.
It doesn't even have to be bigger, just more athletic.
They just have to try harder.
Yeah, and David, I'm really glad you brought up the front court, because I think that's kind of the other interesting kind of component here is you have Ware and Bam playing together. That's kind of been a really important wrinkle in Miami's season, and it's I think it's been mixed. I think there have been times when Ware shooting has hit and the lineups look really, really good, and there are other times where they can't fucking score with those guys on the floor. Offensive rebounding buoys them, so I think it's going to really depend how much Niang at the 4 is Atlanta going to play? They have some size, like, you're shaking your head, but like, I don't know. Atlanta's going to need to score, and Atlanta's going to need some shooting. I think they're going to want to play Ware off the floor. I think they're going to want Miami to play Highsmith and Wiggins and kind of those power forwards, not Ware, so that they have a chance rebounding. I do think Ware has some weaknesses, defensively. I think he does have to play in a drop. He can switch, and I think he's had some success, but I think if Trae Young is hitting a pull-up, coming off that screen, I think that becomes really, really difficult. And I think the other thing, and we saw this in the last playing game, the way that Miami configures their help, the low man's always a guard, right? The low man is not Ware, and Jimmy Butler is not here anymore, and Andrew Wiggins, for all that he is not anywhere near the help defender that Jimmy is, and doesn't have any kind of physicality that Butler had. So that low man is a guard, and it's probably Tyler Herro. It's probably Duncan Robinson. It's probably somebody. So if Atlanta can get anything vertically, downhill, that Okongwu on the roll, any of these guys, if Trae can get a step, I think that's where it starts to become difficult for Miami. And if you're trying to construct a win condition for Atlanta, it's that. It's like, okay, we're going to attack guys like Ware in pick and roll. Trae's going to have to hit shots and eat the space that they give him and drop.
Yeah, I remember watching in the first couple of games. I was like, I was asking Lou about it. I was like, I didn't realize Ware was that bad in drop. Like he hasn't quite figured out how much length he has. He doesn't have the nuances of the positioning just yet. So that's something they'll definitely try and tease. Like I'm looking at the lineups numbers right now, and like the best, like we look at like Khalil on versus Bam on, whatever. They're better as a duo this season than they have been like separate, which I found interesting. But you guys are also shooting 40% from 3 in those minutes, right? So I wanted to ask y'all, like, how much of that is like, I've seen some big stuff with y'all, but how much of that is like Tyler having more screeners to work off of, or like what do you think is leading to that 3-point success with those two on the floor?
I mean, honestly, I think the 3-point success has just come from they really started playing together in like January. Like that was the first time we really broke them out. And realistically, Bam's splits since he's been with Ware, like at least since Jimmy hasn't been on the team, were like 50, 40, 80, like on volume. So I think some of it is that. I also think they stopped playing Terry Rozier. As soon as you do that, the 3-point percentage just fucking skyrockets for some reason. Who would have thought one of the worst shooters in the league taking him off the floor? So
one of the worst shooters and decision makers. Don't let him off the hook.
No, yeah. I mean, he was just talking about shooting. If he got to decision making, we'd fucking have a 37-minute episode on just Terry Rozier being bad. But but if you replace him with Burks, who's been more than valuable, like more than a good shooter, when it wasn't Burks, it was Duncan. For some splits, like even they would both play together. It improves the team. Yeah, Tyler. I actually think with both of them on the floor, Tyler's 3-point rate has probably gone down a little bit because he was just due to the better screeners. He's just been going downhill more, and he's starting to see, especially with two bigs out there, because the spacing in theory is supposed to be worse. They've been throwing two at him more often than they were prior to that, because also no Jimmy. So
yeah, I think your point about the vertical spacing as well is going to be that was a big reason why the Hawks had issues last night, right? So multiple times, Paulo would get downhill and it's a lob over the top, or Wendell was crashing from the dunker and he got an offensive rebound. And so they're going to have to figure out the rotations, because here's the thing. Y'all are probably going to have one of Bam or Ware on the floor probably all 48 minutes, I would imagine.
100%.
The thing about the Hawks is you can only play Okongwu 36 to 42 minutes, okay, before like he actually played the most games he ever has in a regular season game in regulation. I want to say 3 or 4 games ago, and it was 39 minutes. So he's not a super high heavy workload guy. That's the first thing. And the second thing is Mohamed Gay is the only other guy who could possibly try and like limit Kelel's vertical spacing. I can already see in my mind, I'm going to see the put 2 on the ball against Tyler Herro. It's going to be a short roll to Bam, and it's going to be a lob over the top. And if Gay isn't on the floor, that's 2 points, because there's no one else. There's quite literally no one else on the roster who can do anything about that. Okay, so that's the first thing. And I know Spo will have guys sitting in that dunker. I know when Bam is, that's the other thing. When Bam is being a facilitator, it's really tough for the Hawks to end possessions, right? Mohamed Gay has to play bigger than he has. The guards have to box out. It has to be a gang rebounding thing. Like the only way we're gonna not bleed second chance points is that they got to play the way they did against the Bucks a couple of games ago, like gang rebound. They have to be really intentional about securing the glass on the defensive end, because they weren't super locked in against Orlando. So, I don't know. I know y'all, like, in general, this Hawks season, I think immediately after we got blown on the play-in, I see awful takes, right? And I see people saying, oh, this team's directional is, yada, yada, whatever. If you would have said that last year when the Johnson Murray was on the team, fair. Definitely would have agreed with you, right? But now, once Jalen Johnson went down, our season was over, if we're going to be honest. Okay, like that is how deficient this team is of size. That is how reliant we were on him being healthy. And it's okay, because they're a younger team they're trying to develop, right? So it's back-to-back matchups that are really tough for this team. I'm not saying I think we're going to lose. I'm also not saying it's the end of the world if we lose either. I think in general, playoff reps would be really valuable for Reza Shea, for Dyson, for Onyeka Okongwu, right? Like, let them see with playoff intensity. But I'm not going to say we're going to even challenge Cleveland. I think without Jalen Johnson, it's going to be really tough. I will say, I think, as a Hawks fan in general, I think it'd be more fun than watching the Heat, respectfully. But
dude, thank you. I don't want them. My chat knows. Everybody knows. I don't fucking want the Heat to win. I know that everybody wants playoffs. I need Trae Young to get the knife and stick it in Miami. I need Tyler. Listen, happy for Tyler. Great game against Chicago. I'm gonna need that not to happen. I'm gonna need the city of Atlanta to show up and be real fans. And I know that that's what do you say? A glass house throwing stones, because we're Miami. I need. What's it? Is it the State Farm Arena?
Yeah. I
need State Farm to I need that shit. They need to get Young Jeezy at halftime. I don't know what they got to do. They gotta get the crowd going, because I need a Hawks win, man. I want time off, man. I'm sick of this Heat team, and they're gonna play good. And you know what they're gonna do? Chat's like, be a fan, man. I am a fan, bro. Everybody wanted to play Boston, and it was fun 1-1, and then we have to watch Jaylen Brown dance all over us. I don't like that. I fucking hate the Celtics. I don't have a problem with Cleveland, but I don't want to watch them get killed for 5 games. Just give me the pick, man. Just give me the pick.
Do y'all get the pick if you miss the playoffs?
100%.
Oh, yeah. So it's locked. But if they make the playoffs, they lose.
It goes to OKC.
So they have yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So David, so Miami, very wonderfully, this front office does great stuff lately. They traded an expiring contract, Kyle Lowry, and a first-round pick for Terrence Rozier, who has been, pretty bad. And so they owe that pick to Charlotte. And the issue with conveying, so if they keep their pick now, that means that OKC gets an unprotected pick next year.
2026.
And then that means that following Charlotte pick has to get pushed back
to 28.
Stipend rule. Yeah. So then everything
kind of also gets unprotected.
It's also unprotected. So there's a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line here.
And if you're wondering, why does Miami have the 2026 unprotected pick? Guys, I did do you know why the fuck we did that? Because I have the answer. I went through I was here cramming numbers in the basement, how I typically do.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it was the KZ Okpala trade to the Oklahoma City Thunder, where we traded him over there for the worst of 17 teams, second round pick swap.
They did some stuff
to keep Jaime Jaquez as the pick and then make Jaime Jaquez a pick. Like, just the fucking nastiest shit you could ever think of. I hate Pat Riley.
I love this front office.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, great.
front
Good
office.
stuff.
We need
Well,
credentials.
Go team. David, so I think the other we haven't talked about Atlanta's defense, and I think if we talked a lot about how Miami is going to defend them, and we talked about the front court and stuff, but let's talk about Atlanta versus a guy like Tyler Herro. I think that he obviously All-Star year has had a great season. I think after All-Star break, I think he kind of reverted a little bit to some of his worst habits, but I think Lou, I think he really picked it up at the end of the year, and I think you saw against Chicago just really complete game from him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be Herro or bust for them. I think it's going to be between he and Bam. Can they score enough? But I think if Atlanta has some size that they could throw at him. Atlanta, I view them as a team that can switch if they want to. And I think if you are going to construct the best defense against a guy like Tyler Herro, who does not have the foot speed, does not get real separation off the dribble with his first step, you say, okay, let's switch. Let's put some size. Let's send help. Let's really test his passing. Let's really test kind of that mid-range area. That's what I would do. I want your thoughts on how Atlanta is going to try to defend Herro.
Yeah, so I'm a Herro hater. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. It's mainly because I feel like I'm just not a fan of that particular archetype.
I'm very neutral on Herro, by the way.
Yeah. Combo guards, to me at least, are dead in today's NBA, right? Like if you're not an elite playmaker and you're a negative, and I think he's been better on that end. And I think with this particular season, he's sort of broken out of that, right? Like he shot the ball so well that I'm okay with some of the shots he takes. I'm okay with the fact that he's not a great playmaker, right? In the past, my opinion would have been like, he's garbage. I'm gonna be honest. But what he's done this season, he deserves legitimate respect defensively, right? The legitimate respect for improving.
I think his mic cut off.
Yeah, you got muted, David.
Oh.
We'll
look at that.
The
Tyler stands will silence you. I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, Pat Riley has the phone tapped.
Yeah, he tried to get me, bro.
Yeah, but yeah, Riley has the phone tapped.
It's worse than Harvard.
I think defensively, man, it's like you try and keep Dyson attached as much as possible, right? So they'll probably try and show if they try and hunt, if they bring in like a guard-to-guard screen and they've got Trae on the ball, they're going to try and bring him in. They're going to get Dyson back on him. Against Dyson, he actually is shooting the ball efficiently, but he's not producing a ton, right? So looking at his numbers, I think he was at like 13 or 14 points per 75, which is way below his season average. But his efficiency is about like a 62 shooting percentage. A lot of that is because he's able to get to the line. That one game we played y'all in Atlanta, and it was 98-86, was the worst officiating and the most free throws I've ever seen from a team. So that is probably playing a fact as well. But I think overall what they're going to do, they're going to try and probably pinch the floor as much as they can. So you mentioned we have like a pretty high efficiency on like the roll man. Yeah. They're going to try and shrink it, force Miami to beat us on the outside. I don't know how good Davion Mitchell has shot all season, like in general,
very well.
How consistent he is.
Yeah,
okay.
No,
because I think, that's the thing. I looked at the number and I was like, okay, he's been way better than I expected. But Hawks fans look at it as like, who's this bum frying us? But he's legitimately, he needs to be respected as well. So they have to be very cognizant of who they're helping off of, but they're going to try and shrink the floor to compensate for the lack of size. They're going to recover. They're going to X out. They're going to scram switch. But they're probably, at least in my opinion, I don't think they're going to double Herro a ton. You're going to try and trust Dyson as much as possible. They're going to show when he gets cut up on a screen, try to recover from there. But yeah, that's sort of my thoughts about that defensively.
Yeah, I mean, like, and Lou, I think we talked about this, like, how Herro facing a blitz has been mixed. I think that, like, he's a guy that I think, especially when you blitz with size, it's difficult. And I think that if you're going to beat him, you test his playmaking or you force him into isolation. So it's interesting that you said that they wouldn't send two and they just try to like play it straight up, which is not a bad thing. I don't think Tyler's the kind of player that's going to command an immediate double. And then you're Atlanta in rotation when we've kind of talked about the lack of athleticism and foot speed that they have. So
exactly.
How much zone you think that they're going to try? Is Atlanta a team that goes to zone, or are they?
I mean, they've gone to zone not nearly as like frequently as y'all have. I can't remember the graphic I saw. I don't know how often teams would throw zone against you. I would assume it's probably pretty frequent when you have two bigs on the floor.
It's frequent, and also we can't shoot, so it's yeah.
I think they will definitely try it when Niang's on the floor for sure. our zone is sort of, they sometimes do like a 3-2 matchup zone. So that'll be like, it comes out in a 3-2 shell, but every guy's, instead of like a zone, they guard a man when they come into the zone. So it's a more malleable zone. Like, so the guys on the backside are going to be closer to their man than they typically would in a regular zone. So you'll definitely probably see that look. They'll put Dyson at the top. Trae will be on one of the other sides, and then they'll try and have their bigs cover the floor on the backside. So like, like I'm sure Miami push people to the middle. They might screen the top defender. I would expect to see some zone. Who's the best, like outside of Herro? Like, who's the best, like catch and shoot 3-point shooter? Would that be Haywood? Would it be Alex? Because I know Alex struggled against us.
100% Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
I forgot about Duncan. Oh yeah. Duh.
Yeah. Other than that's the
and
other guy.
Then probably Burks.
I was gonna say maybe Davion this year.
Yeah, but just on volume, like Davion,
Davion's shooting 40% from 3.
Yeah,
but
like,
at some point he was at 45.
Yeah, but what is that? 32 minutes, 3 3-pointers per third, like in 32 minutes, like that's not realistic volume. It's
dude, Burks has been fantastic. Burks is at 40, man. Like I knew he was shooting the ball well. Man, that's insane. 43%.
Yeah, when you're age 30 or older and you get signed here for a minimum, somehow we'll get 2 more years out of you.
David, did you like to guess Terry Rozier's 3-point shooting this year?
We should do this. Oh my god, I think
we're gonna do this with every guess. New game,
100%.
Is he 27%?
I'll get music. Hold on, wait. I'll put a little music.
Hold up, let's produce this up.
Yeah, let's produce. All right. David Lee of Afro News. What? Terry Rozier. Point percentage this season.
I'm gonna go with 27%.
You're wrong. It was 29%, but very close. Very close.
He shot higher than I expected. Hold up, 29.
It's red hot to end the year.
15th
percentile.
This guy was on a fucking burner out
here.
Baby.
Eater. Oh,
he's the worst from both corners. Can you imagine being a guard, being the worst from both corners?
Did you see that, David? There was this graphic going around. I think I have it still. There was this graphic going around showing
he was the worst in one and the second worst in the other.
The players with the
I think Ricochet was in one of the corners.
Yeah, he's the one of the best corner 3-point shooters this year now, though.
Oh no, sorry, it was Buzelis. I didn't mean to disrespect.
A wrong playing team. Terry Rozier, the worst shooter from both corners, the most efficient shot in basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, they traded a first-round pick for him.
Oh,
yep.
Geez.
Yeah.
Unprotected, by the way. I mean, if depends if they make the playoffs or not.
Unprotected, and there's no CVS to buy a Plan B. None of that.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
I might steal that.
David, so to kind of close this out here, I think it's pretty clear that Atlanta's at a bit of an athleticism deficit. I think that Miami has a little bit more punch to their defense, and they have a few ways that they can try to limit Atlanta. I think ultimately, I don't know how you feel. I think Miami's probably going to be favored. I don't know what the line is or anything, but I feel that's what I kind of feel the vibe is. I think obviously, Trae Young is the best player in the play-in, in this game.
It is a series, G. How dare you disrespect it?
It is a series, damn it.
This is part fucking 3.
This is part 2. Excuse you.
No, part 3. Right? We played them twice already.
One of them was a playoff series.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
I have the same problem. I keep counting the playoff series. So if you're, we kind of went to all this. So if you're Atlanta, like, what is your win condition? Like, after all that we've talked about, what is, like, if you're going to construct a win condition for Atlanta, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think you don't want to play this team in the half court. And you guys actually don't turn the ball over a ton, which could be tough for us. I think turnover percentage wise. Actually, no, wait, no, y'all do turn them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't turn the ball over. Like, relative to us, you don't turn the ball over as much, right? And you also don't foul a ton. You're not a great offensive rebounding team, but you have more size than us. So I think those are like 3 areas that have to go in the Hawks' favor. So when y'all destroyed us on the 26th of February, we had our lowest transition frequency of the season. And a team like Atlanta, which again, I started off the show with saying this is the worst self-creation team in the NBA. You don't want to get in a half-court battle against Miami. That's playing in the Spo's hands. It's playing into the traps, the zones, the gap defense, whatever it may be. So they're going to have to be able to get out and run. One thing they do really well is pushing the pace off of rebounds, right? So again, similarly against you guys, it was one of the lowest frequencies of the season pushing the pace off of rebound. Against Orlando, they did a better job of doing that. As of late, they've been the second most frequent in the NBA, pushing the ball off of rebounds after All-Star break, right? So it's going to be very important that they do that. Obviously, you can't turn the ball over, but essentially they're going to have to. Anytime you have a size disadvantage, athleticism disadvantage, and an overall like defensive concerns, you have to win the possession battle, which means you can't turn the ball over and you have to generate more possessions than the other team. They're going to have to get to the free throw line. They're going to have to. So if all that being said, the two things, you're going to have to try and turn Miami over as much as possible. And when you can't push the pace, you guys are one of the slowest pace teams in the NBA. If we play at your pace, we will lose. That's just the reality of the game, because a slowed down half court slugfest is not in our favor. It has to be a track race. Guys have to be willing to run and push the pace. So push the pace, win the possession battle, and try not to get Muhammad Gay or Onyeka Okongwu in foul trouble, because then it'll just be over. Like in the Orlando Magic game, both of them got 3 fouls within the second quarter. Quinn Snyder decided it was too much of a risk to have either of them out there, and then he plays Don Barlow and George Niang, and we lost the game. So, that would be my keys.
I agree, Lou. If you're going to construct a win condition for Miami, what does that look like?
Honestly, it kind of starts off with a direct counter to him, control the pace of the game. Like
which is what they did against Chicago.
Which is it's exactly what they did against Chicago.
It's scoring the ball, because when you score the ball, you allow yourself to set your defense. And I think with Chicago, and I think kind of similarly, I think it's actually kind of similarly where if they hit shots, they don't let Atlanta run, leak out, create mismatches, and I think Trae thrives in chaos because he's a great passer and a great offensive player. And I think if a defense is not set and scrambling, that's a guy that will absolutely shred a bent defense. And there's nothing that man loves more than double drag, and how double drag works best in transition. So
no, yeah. I think definitely the first part of it is, like he said, we have to control the pace of the game. I feel a lot more comfortable since we've had Davion on the team being able to do that, because it gives us an actual floor general for the first time legitimately all season. And obviously, not turning the ball over is always nice, because even last game against the Bulls, while Tyler was spectacular, he had 7 turnovers. So if his ball security needs to be good, especially against Dyson. I want to say that I know one of the games that we lost to you guys, Dyson had 7 steals, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was yeah. So right. He played in 3 games. Yeah, had 7 steals in the game we lost to you guys. It's taking care of the basketball, and also the Heat can't get into this game and make it a battle of isolation scoring. Like that's not been us. We have to attack the rim, and we have to play together as a team. Like a player movement, ball movement needs to be at an all-time high. Looking at you, Mr. Wiggins, and we need guys that can literally just be able to swing and move off the ball and continuously force Atlanta into motion. Like David said, like I'm not really scared of any of the backup bigs that Atlanta has, whether it is Barlow or like Gay is better than Barlow as a center, but they don't have anybody else, especially with Larry Nance out. Even like the skeleton of Clint Capella would give Miami issues on the offensive, keeping him away from the offensive glass. So now it's really just that. It's can you contain dribble drive penetration, in particular from Trae Young and from Karis LeVert. Those are the 2 biggest guys that we have to contain. And then aside from that, take care of the basketball. And whatever you can do positively aside from that, you'll be good. I think it's fun to note that in both the games at Miami, so we split the season series 2-2. In the 2 games that Miami won, they had 2 of the best shooting games they've had all season. One of them, they shot 55% from 3. The other one, they shot 54.5% from 3. So, if Miami's hitting shots, it's going to look like a different game. I want to see what this offense looks like when they don't hit shots, because when that happens, it's about to be fucking. You might have to be
to that point, Lou, and I think we can close with this. And we haven't talked about this guy enough. Bam. If their offense is not hitting and they're not shooting the ball well, that's where that guy needs to produce. And if that's okay, if they're playing Niang and you got to find him, you got to match up against him. Whether it's Okongwu, you gotta
or Gay,
big man him, Muhammad Gay, all those guys. Like, you are better than them. and you are more accomplished than them and you're stronger than them. And I think that if their offense bogs down and breaks down, I think this is at least a matchup where in theory he can do that, right? And I think that's always a question with Bam, like what offensive version of him are you going to get? And I think that this is the day that, you know, if they can't get the scoring, we haven't talked about Robinson a lot either. I mean, he's had games where he shreds Atlanta, and I think the 2-man game between him and Bam, especially against this Hawks team, I think it goes a long way, right? I mean, they're in the pick and roll, whether it's handoffs, whether it's Bam in the short roll, whether it's Atlanta, like everybody sends Tua Duncan coming off that screen. A lot of times that's an easy slip pass that Duncan's been really good at. And now Bam in the short roll, you're playing with the advantage. You know, I'd like to see him attacking that short roll. I'd like to see, if you're not shooting the ball well, I'd like to see him attack. Hey, hit that gap. You know, I'm going to force your help to prove to me that you can stop a bigger, stronger guy. And I think a lot points in favor for Miami for all these things, because as we kind of talked about, like they have backups to their backups. And again, these are two pretty not great teams. That's why one of them's a fucking 10 seed. The other, you know, lost to frankly a dog shit Magic team that, you know, plays the worst kind of 2000s basketball I've ever seen. I hate that team. I'm glad that they're Boston's problem. I hope that they play a long, awful series that nobody watches.
Long? The team's out of there in 4.
Probably, but, you know.
Maybe 5. I'm not talking shit because, I mean, if we make it, let me not say what we're
listen, if we make it, that's a lickety split 4. Although Miami's played Cleveland really tough. And listen, if you're in, you know, if they win, get ready for a preview with Justin Rowan of the Chase Down. So I'm recording that tomorrow. We will put it in the vault. If they win, you get it. If they not, then I did that for nothing. So shout out to David. David, thank you so much for coming on, man. For the audience, David came really last minute. I hit David up with probably, I don't know, like 5 hours ago. I'm like, bro, do you want to come on the show tonight? He's like, absolutely. Where and when? Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Where can people find you? What are you working on? Tell the people.
Yeah, man. Again, appreciate y'all so much for reaching out. It was a great convo. So I go by Delete43 on all platforms, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. I have my own podcast, Hawks Film Room. So we get into the nitty and gritty, all the nuances and stuff. Gonna have Lou on a little bit later after this to talk through the series, look at some film and stuff. I've got a video coming up on YouTube. It's going to be about the brilliance of Dyson Daniels. So like what goes into his process, what's made him the most improved player in the NBA, in my opinion, his unique value as a defensive player. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But again, I appreciate you guys so much. And I'm wishing y'all bad luck tomorrow.
Me too. I'm wishing y'all good luck.
All those links. He's wishing us good luck because we got that 11th pick. Oh, please.
And Lou, I can confirm the Miami Heat, for the audience, they changed the schedule. The Heat, if they do advance, they have the 7 p.m. game on Sunday.
Prime time, baby.
Anybody who had Easter plans, fuck your Easter plans. Get ready to watch Heat Cavs. Bam, Evan Mobley, baby. Chat says G wants us to lose so bad he's doing Cavs previews to jinx us. I'm doing all I can, chat. I'm working overtime.
G hates this team so bad.
David, I fucking hate this team. I think this is the Heat team I hate the most, and I watched them win 15 games. I watched Daquan Cook and Chris Quinn. Okay? You can't tell me anything.
You know what's the only thing worse than watching Chris Quinn play? Being an assistant coach.
Poor Quinny, bro.
I love Chris Quinn. That's a bad joke.
All of David's stuff will be linked in the description to this, to our YouTube video. David, thank you so much. Follow him on Twitter. We'll link that in the tweet when the pod goes out, and as well in the description of this. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow, chat, and then we'll see you Saturday, and then we'll see you Sunday if they win. So it is what it is, folks.